Welcome to Amatale's Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happen to coworkers who are a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. Johnson Miles used to believe marriage could feel like sunlight, steady, warm, and certain. He and his wife, Nia Miles, were the kind of Black American couple people quietly admired. Two professionals with matching ambition and matching tenderness. Johnson worked in cybersecurity for a logistics company in Charlotte, and Nia ran a small but thriving boutique event planning studio with a client list that kept her calendar full. Their home was not flashy, but it was filled with small proofs of devotion. Framed photos from weekend trips, a bowl of handwritten date night ideas, and the soft hum of laughter that always seemed to return, even after long days. Their love had rituals that made it feel protected. Every Friday, Johnson cooked salmon, roasted vegetables, and whatever dessert Nia begged for that week, while she played old R&B records and danced through the kitchen in socks. When she got tired, she leaned into him from behind, arms around his waist, and he would pause just to kiss her temple like it was a promise. On Sundays, they walked through their neighborhood early, hand in hand, talking about the future as if it was already waiting for them. If anyone asked, Johnson would have said they were blessed, and he meant it. Then the opportunity came, dressed as a miracle with sharp edges. A firm in Minneapolis offered Johnson a role with a major pay increase, better benefits, and a title that made his mother gasp with pride. It was everything he had worked for, and it would finally erase the worry he carried in quiet places, student loans, business overhead for Nia's studio, and the dream of buying a larger home. The problem was the distance. Minneapolis was a long way from Charlotte. When Johnson brought it up, his voice was careful, like he was trying not to break something precious. Nia listened with her chin resting on her fist, eyes soft but alert. Then she surprised him. "We can do this," she said, steady and sincere. "Go build what you've earned. We'll treat it like a season, not a sentence." She made plans before he even finished apologizing. Weekly video dates, scheduled visits, a shared calendar, and little care packages mailed back and forth. Johnson kissed her right there at the kitchen counter, relief moving through him like water. He told himself the distance would be difficult, but love like theirs had structure. Love like theirs had discipline. The first month was hard, but manageable. Johnson's new job demanded intense hours, and he worked like a man determined to justify every dollar. Minneapolis felt colder than he expected in every way. Weather, streets, even the silence in his apartment at night. Still, he kept his promises. He texted good morning. He called on his lunch break. He read to Nia over video like he used to when she had migraines, his voice a familiar blanket. Nia laughed for him, listened for him, and told him about clients and floral samples and new venue tours. But the second month shifted. Johnson tried to visit, and the project's schedule changed. He tried again, and a system outage kept him in the office through the weekend. Each time he called, frustrated and guilty, Nia seemed strangely calm. "I understand," she would say. "You're doing this for us." When he insisted he could fly in for just one night, she found practical reasons not to. An early setup, a client emergency, a family commitment. Her understanding felt generous, but it also felt final, like a door closing gently instead of swinging open. Johnson told himself not to overthink. The third month taught him what loneliness really sounded like. It sounded like a call going to voicemail after 2 rings. It sounded like his own laughter fading in the echo of his apartment. It sounded like Nia saying, "I'm tired, baby," even when her voice carried a brightness that didn't match the words. Sometimes he heard music in the background, voices, movement. "Where are you?" he asked once, trying to keep it light. "Just out," she replied. "I'll tell you later." Later came as a quick text and a heart emoji, like an apology folded into a sticker. Johnson began to feel him and Nia drifting into a strange politeness, still married, still loving, but speaking like people trying not to disturb each other. He started sending flowers more often, not because he forgot romance, but because he felt himself losing access to her day-to-day world. Nia posted photos at events, always stunning, always smiling, always surrounded by people. Johnson would zoom in, searching for small clues like a man reading a map upside down. When he asked if everything was okay, Nia answered with perfect calm. "We're good, Johnson," she said. "We're solid." On a late Wednesday night, alone with his laptop glow, Johnson applied for a position back in Charlotte. Same industry, similar pay, less prestige than Minneapolis, but close enough to touch his wife again. He didn't tell Nia, not because he wanted to hide, but because he wanted to surprise her, to repair what distance had worn thin. He pictured showing up at her studio with her favorite latte, watching her face transform from confusion to joy. When he got the interview, he kept it quiet. When he got the offer, he held his excitement like a secret candle. The new role started fast. The company had a Charlotte branch and a corporate office downtown that Johnson would report to. On his first day, he arrived early in a crisp suit, heart racing with the strange thrill of returning. He sat in orientation with a polite smile, while his mind ran ahead to the moment he'd finally stand in his own living room again and say, "I'm home." During a break, the HR coordinator gave him his badge and access credentials, including basic security monitoring permissions for his department systems. It felt routine until it didn't. Later that afternoon, Johnson was led through the building, introduced to teams, shown the operations floor, and guided past a security station with multiple camera screens. A tech joked that the cameras caught everything, even people stealing snacks from the break room. Johnson laughed, then glanced at the monitors without thinking. One screen showed the lobby. Another showed a hallway near the conference rooms. And then one angle, wide and clear, showed a visitor standing at reception, smoothing her hair as if preparing to step into a spotlight. Johnson's breath caught. It was Nia, not a resemblance, not someone close. His wife. At first, his body refused to interpret what his eyes were seeing. Nia wore a fitted cream dress and a confident smile, the kind she saved for big clients. She leaned toward the receptionist, spoke, and then turned toward the hallway, as if she already knew where she was going. The receptionist called someone, and within moments a man appeared, black, tall, sharp suit, familiar ease in his walk like he belonged to the building. His face lit up when he saw Nia. He didn't shake her hand. He stepped close, touched the small of her back, and guided her away like a private agreement. Johnson stood, so still the hallway air felt heavy around him. His first instinct was denial. Maybe Nia was planning something for him. Maybe she was there for a vendor meeting. Maybe she had no idea he worked here. But the man leaned close and kissed her cheek in a way that didn't look friendly. It looked practiced. Nia smiled without surprise. Then, before the camera angle lost them, she reached up and adjusted the man's tie with tenderness. Johnson's hands went cold. Inside his chest, a careful, loyal part of him tried to stand guard over the marriage, but the evidence on that screen walked right past it. He didn't confront her that night. He went home, sat on the edge of the bed they once shared, and stared at the wall as if the paint might explain it. His phone buzzed with a text from Nia. "Long day. Miss you. Good night, red heart." Johnson read it twice, then a third time, and felt something crack. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet splinter in the foundation. The next morning, he returned to work early and positioned himself near the security desk under the excuse of learning the building. He watched. He waited. Nia came again. Same calm confidence, same smooth arrival, same immediate response from reception, like she was expected. The man met her again, and this time he hugged her longer, cheek pressed close, hand firm at her waist. Johnson looked away for a second, as if his eyes needed to breathe, then forced himself back to the screen. He memorized the man's badge lanyard color and the direction they walked. He asked a passing employee, casually, "Who's that?" The employee glanced at the monitor and smirked. "Oh, that's Marcus Shaw, sales lead. Smooth talker." Johnson's stomach turned at the smirk, because it carried more information than the words. That afternoon, Johnson called Nia like he was still far away. He kept his voice light, even affectionate, like an actor performing in his own life. "What did you do today?" he asked. "Work," she replied easily. "Met with a client, finished designs, the usual." Johnson swallowed. "Did you go downtown at all?" Nia paused just long enough to be normal, then answered, "No." "Why?" Johnson laughed softly. "No reason. Just missing you." She laughed too. "I miss you, baby." The next days became their own private horror. Nia visited the office repeatedly, sometimes for an hour, sometimes longer. Each time, Marcus greeted her like a man welcoming something he believed he owned. Johnson began keeping notes, dates, times, camera angles. He learned that Marcus often reserved a small conference room on the third floor at the end of the hall, the one with partial blind coverage on the interior window. Johnson started to recognize patterns the way his mind recognized code. Inputs, outputs, repeats. Meanwhile, Nia's calls stayed sweet. Her denials stayed smooth. Her affection sounded real enough to confuse him. One afternoon, Johnson overheard laughter in the break room. He wasn't trying to spy. He was reaching for coffee. Then he heard Marcus's voice. Warm, loud, proud. "She likes the fancy stuff," Marcus said, leaning against the counter, surrounded by co-workers who listened like this was entertainment. "Likes a man who doesn't need permission to take her out. Her husband's always working somewhere." "Poor guy." The room chuckled. Another man asked, "She married?" Marcus grinned. "Yeah, but she doesn't act like it when she's with me." Laughter again, louder, careless, cruel. Johnson stepped back before anyone saw him. He walked to his desk slowly, as if speed might make the pain louder. He felt humiliated in a way he didn't know existed. Humiliated not only by Nia's betrayal, but by the fact that strangers were laughing at his marriage like it was a joke they all shared. Still, beneath the shock, something else sparked. Clarity. Marcus wasn't discreet. The office knew. And if the office knew, there would be proof, messages, calendar invites, access logs, witness accounts, maybe even expense reports. Johnson realized he didn't just need to confront Nia. He needed to protect himself. That night, Johnson searched their joint accounts and noticed something he'd ignored before. Irregular transfers from Nia's business account into their savings, then into a separate account he barely recognized. The account was in Nia's name only. He felt sick, then angry at himself for not seeing it earlier. Nia had always handled finances because she was better at it, and Johnson had trusted her. Trust, he realized, was what cheaters used like camouflage. He printed statements. He downloaded records. He quietly changed his payroll deposit for the new job into an account only he controlled, telling himself he would undo it once he understood what was happening. The plot twisted deeper the next week when a co-worker in accounting, an older black woman named Renee Talbot, stopped by Johnson's desk under the pretense of dropping off forms. Her eyes held a warning. "You're new, so I'm not sure what you know," she said carefully, "but you should be cautious around Marcus." Johnson kept his face neutral. "Why?" Renee lowered her voice. "He gets close to people, then money goes missing, then somehow it's never him. Just watch her back." She walked away without waiting for gratitude, like she'd done her part and refused to be pulled into the mess. Johnson went from hurt to alert. He began cross-checking what he legally could through his department's security scope and publicly accessible company systems, and he filed formal internal requests when he couldn't. He didn't hack. He didn't steal. He used process, policies, logs, and documented approvals, because revenge without discipline was just chaos. He learned Marcus had submitted questionable reimbursements, always approved by a manager who owed Marcus favors. He also learned that Nia's name appeared on a vendor list connected to an event services invoice. Nia's business. Johnson stared at the screen, stunned by the audacity. His wife wasn't just cheating, she was entangled. Johnson called Nia again, still acting like he was states away. "I'm thinking about our finances," he said gently. "Just planning for the future." Nia's tone brightened. "Yes, I've been organizing everything," she said quickly. Too quickly. "We're good." Johnson's throat tightened. "Did you open a new account?" Nia laughed in a way that sounded rehearsed. "No, baby. Why would I do that?" Johnson let silence hang for a second, long enough to be felt. Then he softened his voice, the way he used to when comforting her. "I trust you," he said. "I just want us safe." "We are safe," she insisted. "I love you." Johnson hung up, and realized love was now a word that could be used as a shield. He gathered evidence the way a grieving man builds a wall, one brick at a time. Security footage timestamps of Nia's visits. Calendar room reservations tied to Marcus's badge. Witness statements from co-workers who were tired of Marcus's bragging. An audio recording, legal in his state under one-party consent, capturing Marcus in the break room, describing how Nia spoiled him, how she didn't even ask questions when he suggested investments, how her husband was busy chasing titles. Johnson's hands shook the first time he listened back, because Marcus wasn't just cruel, he was confident. Confident enough to admit he was after her money. The romantic memories hit hardest during the quiet parts. Johnson would find himself staring at the ring on his hand, remembering the night he proposed in Savannah with a small band playing nearby and Nia crying into his suit jacket. He remembered their honeymoon in Miami, her laughing at the ocean wind, her lipstick smudge from kissing him on the balcony. He remembered the way she used to say, "We're a team," when life was hard. Now, each memory felt like a photograph slowly burning at the edges. Johnson didn't stop loving her overnight. That was the cruelest part. His love stayed, even when trust died. The final twist arrived as an invitation. Johnson overheard Marcus telling co-workers about a big birthday surprise for Nia, something planned at an upscale rooftop lounge downtown. Marcus boasted that he'd gone all out, and that Nia deserved a man who showed her off. Someone asked if her husband would be there, and Marcus laughed like the idea was comedy. Johnson felt rage rise, but he held it down with a calm that scared even him. He knew this was the stage Marcus wanted. So Johnson decided to give him an audience he didn't expect. Not just co-workers, not just friends, family, both sides, everyone who had ever called their marriage beautiful. Johnson created invitations with careful politeness, framing it as a surprise celebration for Nia and asking guests to arrive early. He invited his mother, his sisters, his closest friends from college. He invited Nia's parents, her cousins, her best friend, and even a few of her longtime clients who loved her work. He also invited Renee Talbot, because he trusted her honesty, and he quietly tipped off internal compliance about the vendor invoice tied to Nia's business, requesting they attend the event as an informal meet and greet, knowing they'd recognize Marcus immediately. Johnson didn't want a scene for entertainment. He wanted truth in daylight. On the night of the party, the rooftop lounge glowed with soft lighting and expensive decor. A banner read, "Happy Birthday, Nia," and Marcus stood near the entrance wearing a suit that looked like he'd practiced his smile in the mirror. Nia arrived in a red dress that stole the room, her hair flawless, her confidence bright. She kissed Marcus on the cheek like it was natural, then laughed when he whispered something in her ear. Johnson watched from a private corner with his guests already gathered. His chest ached, because she looked like the woman he married, while acting like the stranger he discovered. When the music dipped for Marcus's planned toast, Johnson stepped forward. The room shifted, recognizing him instinctively even if they didn't know why. Nia's face drained of color, so fast it looked unreal. "Johnson," she breathed, voice catching. Marcus froze, then tried to smile. "Man, you must be." Johnson lifted a hand, not angry, just finished. He played a short video on the large screen Marcus had rented, security footage of Nia arriving at the office, Marcus greeting her, their private closeness captured from angles that made denial impossible. Then Johnson played the audio of Marcus bragging about her husband being a fool and about her money. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Nia's mother covered her mouth. Marcus's co-workers stared, stunned and embarrassed. Nia whispered, "Please," but the room had already heard the truth. The humiliation didn't stop at infidelity. Johnson turned to compliance officers and handed over the printed statements, the vendor invoice, and evidence of the questionable transfers. Marcus tried to step back, but two men in suits blocked his path with calm authority. Nia's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment Johnson saw the woman he loved trapped inside consequences she never imagined. Then the last twist landed. Marcus, cornered, snapped and admitted he had been planning to drain her accounts and leave because he had someone else, and Nia was just convenient. Nia collapsed into sobs, her birthday dress suddenly looking like a costume she'd worn to her own downfall. Johnson didn't shout. He simply removed his ring, placed it on the table, and told her quietly, "I loved you enough to come home. You loved me enough to lie while I did." He walked out into the night air, heartbroken, but finally free, knowing his revenge wasn't cruelty. It was the truth revealed in front of everyone who mattered. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.